Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, was a nice woman, but very strict. "Just 5 minutes," Harry pleaded. "Absolutely not. You let Professor Dumbledore in. Well, of course, that was the headmaster. Quite different. You need rest." "I am resting. Look, lying down and everything." "Oh, go on, Madame Pomfrey." "Oh, very well," she said, "but 5 minutes only." And she let Ron and Hermione in. "Harry!" Hermione looked very ready to fling her arms around him again, but Harry was glad she held herself in, and his hand was still very sore. "Oh, Harry, we were sure you were going to. Dumbledore was so worried. The whole school's talking about it," said Ron. "What's really happened?" It was one of those rare occasions when the true story is even more strange and exciting than the wild rumors. Harry told them everything: Quirrell, the mirror, the stone, and the Voldemorts. Ron and Hermione were a very good audience, and they gasped in all the right place. And when Harry told them what was under Quirrell's turban, Hermione screamed out loud. "So the stone's gone," said Ron finally. "Flamel's just going to die." "That's what I say. But Dumbledore thinks that—" What was it? To the well-organized mind, that is but the next great adventure. "I always said he was off his rocker," said Ron, looking quite impressed at how crazy his hero was. "So what happened to you two?" said Harry. "Well, I got back all right," said Hermione. I brought Ron round. That took a while, and we were dashing up to the owlery to contact Dumbledore when we met him in the entrance owlery. He already knew. He just said, 'Harry's got after him, hasn't he?' and hurried off to the third door." "Do you think he meant you to do it?" said Ron, "sending you your father's clock and everything?" "Well," Hermione exploded, "if he did, I mean to say, that's terrible. You could have been killed." "No, it isn't," Harry said doubtfully. "He's a funny man, Dumbledore. I think he sort of wanted to give me a chance. I think he knows more or less everything that goes on here. You know, I reckon he had a pretty good idea we were going to try, and instead of stopping us, he just taught us enough to help. I don't think it was an accident he let me find out how the mirror worked. It's almost like he thought I had to right face Voldemort if I could." "Yeah, Dumbledore's off his rocker, all right," said Ron proudly. "Listen, you've got to be up for the end of the year feast tomorrow. The points are all in and Slytherin won. Of course, you missed the last Quidditch match. We were steamrolled by Ravenclaw without you, but the food will be good." At that moment, Madame Pomfrey burst out. "You've had nearly 15 minutes. Now out," she said firmly. After a good night's sleep, Harry felt nearly back normal. "I want to go to the feast," he told Madame Pomfrey as she straightened his many candy box. "I can't I?" "Professor Dumbledore says you are to be allowed to go," she said sniffily, as though, in her opinion, Professor Dumbledore didn't realize how risky a feast could be. "And you have another visitor." "Oh, good," said Harry. "Who is it?" Hagrid slided through the door and he spoke. As unusual, when he was indoors, Hagrid looked too big to be allowed. He sat down next to Harry, took one look at him, and burst into tears. "It's all my really faults," he sobbed, his face in his hand. I told the evil git how to get past Fluffy. I told him it was the only thing he didn't know, and I told him, yeah, could be died, all for a dragon egg. I'm never drinking again. I could be chucked on made to live as a muggle. Hagrid, said Harry, shocked to see Hagrid shaking with grief and remorse, grey tears leaking down into his beard. Hagrid, he'd have found out somehow. This is Voldemort we're talking about. He'd have found out even if you hadn't told him. You could have died, sobbed Hagrid. And don't say the name, Voldemort, Harry bellowed. And Hagrid was so shocked, he stopped crying. I've met him, and I'm calling his name by his name. Please cheer up, Hagrid. We saved the stone. It's gone. He can't use it. Have a chocolate frog. I've got lots. Hagrid wiped his nose on the back of his hand and said, That reminds me, I've got you a present. It's not a salt sandwich, isn't it? Said Harry anxiously, and at last Hagrid gave a weak chuckle. Nah, Dumbledore gave me the day of yesterday to fix it. 'Cause he should have sacked me instead. Anyway, got you this. It seemed to be a handsome, leather-covered book. Harry opened it curiously. It was full of wizard photographs, smiling and waving at him. From every page were his mother and father's. Sent out after all your parents' old school friends asking for photos. Knew you didn't have any. Do you like it? Harry couldn't speak, but Hagrid understood. Harry made his way down to the end of the year feast on the night. He had been held up by Madame Pomfrey, fusing about, insisting on giving him one last check-up, so the great hall was already full. It was decked out in slathering color of green and silver to celebrate Slytherin's winning the House Cup for the 7th year in a row. A huge banner showing Slytherin with serpent covered the wall behind the head table. When Harry walked in, there was a sudden hush, and then everybody started talking aloud at once. He slipped into a seat between Ron and Hermione at the Gryffindor table and tried to ignore the fact that people were standing up to look at him. Fortunately, Dumbledore arrived moments later. The babble died away. Another year's done, Dumbledore said cheerfully, and I must trouble you with an old man's whizzing waffle before we sink our teeth into our delicious feast. What a year it has been! Hopefully your hats are all a little fuller than they were. You have the whole summer ahead to get them nice and empty before next year starts. Now, as I understand it, the House Cup here needs awarding, and the points stand this. In 4th place, Gryffindor with 312 points. In 3rd, Hufflepuff with 352. Ravenclaw has 426. And Slytherin 472. The storm of cheering and stamping broke out from the Slytherin table. Harry could see Draco Malfoy banging his goblet on the table. It was a sickening sight. Yes, well then, Slytherin, said Dumbledore. However, recent events must be taken into account. The room went very still. The Slytherin smile faded a little. Said Dumbledore. I have a few last-minute points to dish out. Let me see, yes. First, to Mr. Ronald Weasley. One went purple in the face. He looked like a radish with a bad servant. Sunburn. For the best played game of chess in Hogwarts has seen in many years. I award Gryffindor House 50 points. Gryffindor's cheer nearly raised the bewitched ceiling. The stars overhead seemed a quiver. Percy could be heard telling the others purpets. You're my brother, you know. My youngest brother got past McGonagall's giant chess sets. At last, there was a silence again. Second to Miss Hermione Granger, for the use of cool logic in the face of fire, I award Gryffindor House 50 points. Hermione buried her face in her arms. Harry strongly suspected she had burst into tears. Gryffindors up and down the table were beside themselves. They were 100 points up. Third to Mr. Harry Potter, said Dumbledore. The room went deadly quiet. For pure nerve and outstanding courage, I award Gryffindor House 60 points. The Dean was defending those who could add up while yelling themselves hoarse. Knew that Gryffindor now had 472 points, exactly same as Slytherin. They had tied for the House Cup. If only Dumbledore had given Harry just one more point. Dumbledore raised his hand. The room gradually fell silent. There are all kinds of courage, said Dumbledore, smiling. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemy, but just as much to stand up for our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Mr. Neville Longbottom. Someone standing out the great hall might well have, though, of some sorts of explosions had taken place. So loud was the noise was interrupted from the Gryffindor table. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood up to yell and cheer for Neville. White with shock, disappeared under a pile of people hugging him. He had never won so much as a point for Gryffindor before. Harry, still cheering, nudged Ron in the ribs and pointed at Malfoy, who couldn't have looked more stunned and horrified. He'd just have a bloody blind curse put on him. Which means Dumbledore called over storms and applause, for even Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff was celebrating the downfall of Slytherin. We need a little change of decorations. He clapped his hands. In an instant, the green hangings became scarlet and the silver became gold. The huge Slytherin serpent vanished and a towering Gryffindor lion took its place. Snape was shaking Professor McGonagall's hand with a horrible forced smile. He caught Harry's eyes, and Harry knew at once that Snape's feeling toward him hadn't changed one jot. This didn't worry Harry. It seemed as though life would be back to normal next year, or as normal as it ever had in Hogwarts. It was the best evening of Harry's life, better than winning at Quidditch, or Christmas, or knocking out a mountain troll. He could never, ever forget this night.